Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's 7:11 p.m. Central. First off, I have to make sure I plug Ozark UFO Conference because I keep doing it at the end of the show. They don't really care, but I just want to make sure I do it. They pull their site up and give you the dates. It's going to be online only, I guess, because of COVID. But I usually plug them and get to see it for free. And then, of course, I don't know how much it is. You'll have to look at the site. But it's Ozark UFO Conference. So I know Whitley Strieber's going to be there. Terry Lovelace, Grant Cameron. I know Garnet Schulhauser's been on the show before. I know Donna Lynn has. I know I've interviewed Terry Lovelace. But anyway, it's Ozark. Where's the dates at on this thing? It's releasing conference talks. They're on the site. It's in April 10th through the 11th, 2021, ozarkufoconference.com. Alrighty, that's the only thing I had to plug. We got Jay McNicholas here with us tonight. What's up, Jay?
Not too much, man. How's it been going down there?
It's going. It's like 30, been in 38 in the mornings, but lately it's been 80 for days. So It's like hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold.
We got flurried on last night or the day before.
Bless you.
Nothing stuck, but snow came out of the sky.
Cool. haven't seen snow in a long time in Florida, but it's definitely bipolar weather for sure with the hot and the cold. It's crazy. But I'm glad it's cold right now, even though it may be the last cold till November. Who knows? And it's rough. And when it's hot, the mosquitoes are already out here, like hunting for my blood. It's their elixir. Like
the whole problem down there, those mosquitoes decide whether to eat you there or fly you home to eat you for dinner later.
Yeah, that's just it. They're already out hunting for me. Like I go out there with Christina, and when we walk and stuff, it's just they're already just on the hunt. Tonight's guest, Russell Wiitala, Sasquatch Shaman of the Woods. Hey, Russell, did I say your last name right? Say it one good time for us.
It's actually Wiitala. You know, like in the game WII, we.
Okay. Wiitala. Is that
Wiitala.
native? It sounds native.
It's Finnish.
Okay, Finnish. Okay. Cool, though. Okay. All right. Well, great to have you here. Pleasure to have you here. And I've been looking forward to this. Did your book, it just released, correct?
Well, I got the author's copy 2 days ago. And so I think it's going to be, I'd kind of jumped the gun a little bit because I think it's going to be probably another 2 weeks before it's available through the Durant's Publishing Company bookstore, and then probably another month before it's released to Amazon and all those other places, outlets.
Well, I saw it at the first link and it's listed, but I don't know if that was pre-order or if they were just sending it out right now. But I know I saw it at one of your links.
I'm thinking, but
okay,
you might be right. I don't pay attention a lot.
Okay, well, they got it listed, and the art is really cool. Where did you hook up with that art? I love that.
Yes. Now, that artist is Marcia K. Moore, and I highly recommend going on and looking at her stuff. She does a lot of, that kind of art, but she also has a sideline where she reconstructs the skulls, like down in Peru. She works with Brian Forster. I think that's his name.
Yeah, that's I've heard of him. I know him. I've actually spoken to him.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, yeah. So she helps him with that, and I just she's just a pure, loving soul, and so I was just really excited that I felt her art was just right for the cover of my book, and I went through one of her sketchbooks. And I went through the whole thing, and that just caught my eye. The one on the cover there, and so the second time through, I decided, yeah, that has to be the one. It just makes sense to me.
It's definitely cool.
Yeah, to me, those three that are standing behind the one that has the white Sasquatch sitting on his lap. Those are my friends Peter, Jacques, and CC. And then the one that's got the white Sasquatch on his lap is my teacher. And then it could be I'm the white one. I kind of think that because they did send me a message that I'm a Sasquatch in human form. And, of course, I consider that an honorary degree or award.
That's I've wondered if I'm an alien in human form, so I definitely I understand.
Well, we all are, really. I think we all have I've come to the conclusion that there's, some genetic manipulation going on, so we all have a mix of Sasquatch and alien and maybe some ancient primate of some sort.
And what was the thing that introduced you to Bigfoot to begin with? I know you went into that a little bit on your bio, but if you could tell our audience, what was the catharsis that got you on the path of Sasquatch?
Yeah, this is the thing. I didn't really even think about Sasquatch. In fact, I may have even had an encounter way back in 1980 with one, or 1982 is where I figured it was around then. But anyway, but I didn't recognize it as being a Sasquatch. It was just a very odd thing. Something was throwing rocks off a ridge. I was fishing, and I thought to myself, I know there's no human up there. Do rocks, is that a bear? It didn't make sense to me. Until, of course, years later, like about 5 years later, or 5 years ago, when I realized, oh boy, that was a Sasquatch I had an encounter with. But, I was walking just after I retired in 2007, May of 2007. I'm walking with my friend Russell Wilson, and he just asked me if I'd heard about the family that saw a Sasquatch while they were hiking. I was just, shocked, and I said, "What?" And my next question out of my mouth was, "Do you want to go looking for Bigfoot?" It was just spontaneous, but it was the right timing and for everything, and that's the way these things are. They're very synchronistic. And so we looked.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So we went out and started searching, and I started researching, reading books and eyewitness reports and so on and so forth. And we looked everywhere for 4 years. I mean, I went out 2-3 times a week for 4 years through brush and down ravines and up ravines, and, it was just horrible. Nothing except for one possible 16-inch footprint that was in a mud puddle, but, wasn't really very defined. So that was it. And about the time I started to quit, that's when they started engaging. I was hiking that same trail where the family saw the Sasquatch, and I smelled this horrible smell of death, like a carcass.
Yes.
And I expected to see a carcass. And usually you see them pretty quick when you get a whiff like that. And I kept hiking and hiking and hiking, and I'm a half mile past where I thought I would see the carcass, and I'm still smelling this, and I'm not seeing the carcass. So at that time, I already knew that they could smell bad. So
yes.
I was thinking, oh boy, I think this might be a Sasquatch. And I went up on this ridge and started looking for it in this clear cut. And there was one patch of trees way over on this other ridgeline road. And I heard 3 knocks emanate from that patch of trees. And so I hiked over there, and I got another whiff. But it was really faint, but he was obviously still there. And what I've learned since is that they have these scent glands in the nap of their elbow, and they can, and I think they have some control over those, but I also think you can scare one, spook one. They make mistakes once in a while, and you can surprise one, and probably that'll release something out of that gland.
And when it comes to your initial encounters, what were some of those that made you realize? I mean, what started happening when it started really heating up?
Yeah, well, for some reason, after 4 years of study, I saw a common thread that was running through all these stories, and so I started writing down all those common threads. And someone will tell you, well, first of all, you probably find them in a patch of woods, right? Okay, there's one for you. But I had a list of those, and I called up my buddy and I said, I think I just had an encounter. Let's go out and see if we can find one. I believe I can find them now. And so we went. I can't believe I was that confident after 4 years of nothing, but who knows why. But anyway, I was. And we drove out to the location where I thought that we might find a family or some activities. One living there is what I was looking for. And sure enough, they were there. We went out there and we first found these punky logs had been tossed or something. They were missing. They had been sitting in this soft ground. And it's
sorry, just a
sec. So you can see the indentations, but the logs were missing. And there was no way anybody drug them or picked them up. Why would they pick up punky logs? And so that was really close to the landing where we eventually camped and had interaction with them. And so that was the first clue. And then we went down and I screamed because I didn't know any better, and turns out, what I'm screaming, of course, is their angry scream, so it's not very polite, but that did get some response. We heard one moving around down below us, but of course it could have been anything. And at the time, I was still skeptic. At the beginning, I told my friend I'm going to give him a 50-50 chance of existing, and I'll keep an open mind, and we'll just see what happens. But anyway, the next time we went out, I screamed again. We heard 3 knocks, and I screamed again. We heard 3 more knocks. And so right from that time, now I'm thinking, oh boy, I'll give him about an 85% chance now, is what I told my friend. He was a little disappointed by that because he'd already seen one when he was a teenager. He was driving to a girlfriend's house and on a gravel road, and one just jumped out of the brush and put his hand right on his driver's side window and then ran right back into the brush again. And to tell you the truth, what I know now, I think that was on purpose. That was a reveal. But anyway, so then we went out there again, and I screamed, and it was about 10 minutes, but he was somewhere else. And then he hiked back from wherever he was, and he got about 2 miles away from us. I'd say about 2 miles, and then he screamed back. And he was on a ridge, and that vocal, it just filled up the whole valley. It was just amazing. I've never heard anything like that since. It was so loud. And he sustained it for 12 seconds. And I don't know if you've ever tried to scream at the top of your lungs, but try it. You'll see that you can only do it for about 4 seconds. And it wasn't only that, but the volume. Oh, my gosh. So when I screamed, there was some coyotes about a few hundred yards away, and they started howling. And when he screamed, everything in the valley shut up. And I turned to Russell, and at first I thought it was a souped-up vehicle, by the way. I heard this revving up, And I turned to Russell. I started to say, listen to those goobers, and I realized it was a vocal. And then the next, 8 or 9 seconds, it just kept going. And after it ended, I told Russell I'm 110% believer now because there's just nothing out there that could call like that. It was just amazing. So from that then on, I knew they existed. But of course, I was just thinking they were just another animal, like a fancy ape or something, And slowly but surely, they kind of inform you, really. We started going out there, and I started playing guitar, and they'd gather around us, so we could hear the father and the sons on one side, and then 180 behind us were the mother and the daughter, and we could hear them talking to each other between songs, and while we're just sitting there, and so it was obvious that they had language. So it was at that point that I realized, okay, these are smart. These aren't just smart apes. These are like more like humans, you know. At that time, I hadn't seen one yet, and it was quite a while afterwards. In fact, Russell saw one up there on that landing one night, and I was looking at Russell, so I missed it, which is too bad. But I've seen him plenty of times since. Last one I saw was Halloween morning.
What happened on Halloween morning?
Okay. Listen carefully, Jay. About two or 3 weeks before that, it'd been quite a while since I'd seen one, for sure. You know, I thought I saw one about a year ago, and I think it was a juvenile. I heard a knock first and then saw something black run across a road spur, but I wasn't sure. And so I asked him, you know, it's been a while. Could you maybe give me a visual? And that's what I got. So there's this one area, it's called the Rails to Trails, and there's this one spot where it's 2 miles in a straight line. You can see all the way down. And so I'm hiking that 2 mile stretch, and I'm always keeping my eyes down range, you know, just in case. And I came to an apple tree. I stopped after about 3/4 of a mile. I stopped, picked the apple, started eating the apple, and it was very sweet, and decided I'm going to get back there and get some of those apples on the way back. And then I look down range again, and I see this post that I don't remember seeing before. And it's way down there. You know, it's over a mile away. And I'm thinking to myself, that's suspicious. And I just keep my eye on that post. It's a big, tall post. Well, sure enough, after a few seconds, it crossed the trail. So I knew that it was bipedal because, you know, from that distance, even an animal, if it crosses the trail, if it's an ungulate, you're going to see 4 legs. But all I saw was just this tall post walk across the trail from that distance.
Yes.
And so I just kept my eyes on him and just kept hiking towards him, and I watched him for over 10 minutes. And this is what's crazy. There's a highway right next to it, but there's a few trees between the highway and the Rails to Trails. And the sun was in the eyes of anybody trying to look that way. So it was well-timed. I know he knew that. You know, passengers riding in a car, for instance, if they looked that way, they wouldn't be able to see him, especially if he's standing still. So anyway, I just kept hiking, and when I got within about, I'd say 1/3 of a mile, I sent him a message. I said, look, I have my camera. I got my zoom lens. And I could have just stopped right then and taken a picture, but I told him I'm not going to take a picture. I'm just going to keep walking, and please don't leave until I get a good look at you. Well, I got within about 1/4 of a mile, and then he took off and left. So I went up the next day into the foothills adjacent to that area, and he had pushed over an alder tree and left this big white crystal in the break of the alder tree. So that was pretty special. That was a real gift. I consider anything that give me vocal, you know, sighting a gift. I mean, they're precious.
And I saw the gingerbread. Was that something you leave them, the gingerbread cookie? I saw that in your book.
No, that wasn't me. Oh, no, that wasn't a cookie. That was a doll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it looked like a little gingerbread.
Yes. Well, that happened because we were playing for this one clan that we call the Teddy Bear Clan now. And I was taking, Russell Wilson and his daughter up sometimes, and I was taking a couple other friends up, Alex and Neil, and we were playing and for them, and they would come in and listen. And even during the day, we could hear the kids talking to each other, but they were hiding behind brush. So that was a really cool place. And there was this area where all the kids were playing. It was like a big, huge jungle gym, and all the limbs on the top of the alder trees were bent over where they'd been swinging around, and who knows what they were doing, but they were having fun. Anyway, one night, Neil and Alex did this just beautiful, gorgeous cover song. I can't remember what it was. It was some alternative rock thing. And we heard this little baby scream in delight. Just screamed out in delight, and it wasn't that far away, and oh, that was so cool. And so Russell had the idea, hey, maybe we could bring a teddy bear out for the little one. So he brought one out and stuck it in that tree, and it just stayed there for a few weeks. And I decided, maybe they don't know it's there. So I moved it to the gifting stump, behind the gifting stump, and the girl, the kids were there. The girl and the boy were there. We could hear them. So I held it up and told them, this is for you guys. This is a gift. And they took it after that. So that was kind of cool.
So what was the point where at first you said you thought they were like an undiscovered monkey or whatever, but where's the point that you realized that they were, it seems from your perspective, they're physical and they can go between realms, multidimensional? Is that what you think, or do you think it's camouflage? And me personally, I've seen enough weird stuff to where I think they can walk between realms, just based on the other weird stuff I've seen. I'm not going to rule it out because of the other stuff. I've seen some weird stuff for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they do, but I know that time that one went by me and he was cloaked, I couldn't see him at all. So if it was just the skin, for instance, that like a chameleon, that was changing a frequency, so we couldn't see him.
Yes.
I don't think I could see through him like that. There would be some sort of borderline or something that you would see, even if you could see through. So I'm thinking, they can traverse dimensions, wherever spirits are, wherever they reside. Because I've seen ghosts, but they're not here all the time. I've only seen one ghost twice, the same ghost, and where do they go? Where are they? Well, I think that's where the Sasquatch are. I think, but I'm not sure.
And I know Rod Moorhead, I'm not sure if he thought at first like you that they were just physical only, and then as it progressed, he evolved that maybe something similar, because I've interviewed Ron and I know now he's got Quantum Bigfoot, the book, so obviously he thinks there's more to it. It's weird. I mean, no one is just it's a mystery in a lot of ways too. But based on what I've seen, I've had sightings of beings of light all my life since being healed from cancer. I've seen them many times, like flying through the air. Like I was sitting Indian style on a concrete driveway, and I looked up and one just flew through the sky like it was Superman. That was a person made of light. I've seen them many times, and just based on that, I'm not going to rule anything else out about Bigfoot being multidimensional or whatever. But as far as my big question, though, and I don't know, I haven't heard your thoughts on this yet. I'm deep within the confines of the book and loving it at the tail end of it. And but one thing, what do you think they are? I hear so many people say Nephilim, that there's a giant like from the Bible and Nephilim connection to them. Do you think that's true? What do you think about what they really are?
They say that's not what they are. I've heard it. I've read enough testimonies by people who can mind speak with them. They're telepathic.
Yes.
And there are certain, a few people can communicate two ways with them, telepathically. And from all of those, well, not from all of those, but from at least three of those, they've said they weren't Nephilim. I'm not sure exactly what they are, or how they came about, or how we came about. Really, to tell you the truth, I'm pretty dang sure that there was genetic manipulation with us, and it could be that we are a cross between Sasquatch and ET. That's kind of what I'm thinking might be.
And as I look at Jay, I think you're correct.
Yeah, I'm turning my phone down so it doesn't make any more noise. Sorry about that.
Thank you. I heard some keypad.
I expect him to bring up D&D anytime now.
I told him about your D&D and.
No,
Actually,
that's how I know some monsters. What can I say?
Be proud of me, Jay. I got some. I found a bunch of those Ravenloft novels online. I love Ravenloft, and they launched it and everything. But I found them like from a site or something, and there was just all of them in this big thing because they're really hard to find. So it was just like files that you could get from a particular place. But Strahd and all that, I love that stuff. Yeah. So I'm not anti D&D, but yeah, sometimes Jay will pounce out some D&D. For sure.
Yeah, I'm not anti-D&D either.
I miss it. The only way to get it now is like video games and stuff. Like I miss sitting in a table and throwing dice.
Yeah, I remember my cousins really being into that.
Now they have it online at some weird site where you can play it through like cams or something. I've never done that. I don't know if I will, but maybe one year. But it's still interesting. But Jay has seen one. Jay,
yeah, I want to hear this story.
Let's hear it, Jay.
Yeah, this is probably 76, 75, 76. I was at my cousin's house in Ohio, in Boardman, Ohio, near Youngstown, and we were on the second level, not the ground level, one flight up, in a bedroom, jumping on beds and having fun. While all of our parents were out it was like near Thanksgiving time, so all of our parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents and everybody were out getting drunk while we were being babysat by babysitters. And I happened, just like you told in your story, I happened to notice a smell at my cousin's house, and they have two, toddlers in diapers. So I'm like, I call my oldest cousin, like, hey, Mike, one of your brothers or sisters has, soiled their diapers because it smelled bad. And he gets up to start, checking his little baby brother and sister, and I look in the window, like about 10 feet away, and there's this old Bigfoot face, like with an almost half smile on his face, looking at us.
Awesome.
Until he sees me, seeing him, seeing us, and then his face went from glee to anger in a split second, and he howled at me like Jeffrey's doing.
I'm making facial impressions on the camera.
My entire body went like almost stiff. I got goose pimples everywhere. The hair on my neck down to my spine went straight, stand on it endwise. And then we heard it thud off of whatever it was standing on in the back of the house onto the ground. And we ran downstairs to try to catch up with it. And we saw it just in time to see take 2 or 3 huge bounds to be out of their half-acre backyard. Wow. And that was 11 o'clock at night or so, and it was gone.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, I've never seen anything that big. It must have been 10 to 12 feet tall at least.
Well,
and I've never ever seen anything that big move that fast before, ever.
Yeah, they are amazingly fast.
Yeah.
That one I thought I saw about a year ago. I mean, it was too fast to be a bear or a skunk. So that's why I kind of assume it was a Sasquatch. The other thing weird about it is when I went down there to check, it would just look gnarly where it entered the brush, but it didn't make a noise, not a sound. That was weird too.
Yeah.
He liked children, so he probably was attracted by you guys playing in that room. He could hear it and wanted to take a peek.
That's exactly my take on it, because they are attracted to those kinds of noises, and I guess he got caught up in watching us goofing around. But once he noticed that we noticed him, it was game over, man. He was pissed off. How was it my fault that I noticed you looking at us in a window, you perv? I mean,
I know. What the hey?
But that's exactly what happened. And the next day we went out, and we were too scared. I mean, I was 9, 10 years old. My cousin was 8 or 9, is the next oldest one in the house with me. And then there was a 17-year-old female babysitter downstairs. None of us were brave enough to go outside and look for it. But the next morning we went out there and we spent several hours, and we walked through the backyard following its steps. What it had done was they had my house in Maryland and their house in Ohio. We both had this little log cabin we played in. It was like a little log cabin fort deal. The Bigfoot was standing on that and then leaning over the house looking in the window, because we could see 2 of its big, not paw prints, but legitimate 5-fingered thumb hand prints on the wall on the vinyl. And then we followed his footprints into the woods. Like it went 2 houses or 3 houses away into the woods, and then it hit a creek and we lost it. But we were able to follow his footprints until the creek.
Yeah. Yeah, that's more than I've ever done, by the way. But I don't go out and really purposely look for tracks. Just sometimes I come upon them.
We happen to come upon them in the most unusual way, but that was my first and only Bigfoot hunt, and it was successful in kind of reverse. Things went backwards. We found Bigfoot first, and then we followed him.
And it's interesting that he got angry when you spied him. You know, that's
absolutely. He was absolutely angry.
Yeah, that kind of surprises me. I mean, I could see him with open eyes and go, "Oops," but getting angry. That's yeah.
Well, and it was also older.
I don't know how to analyze that.
Gray hairs.
All the ones up here are just so mellow, you know.
I think it might have been also due to its age. It seemed to be older than. I mean, it wrinkly face, and the hair, like the mustache, had strands of gray in it. It was mostly brown, but it had some gray hairs in the eyebrows and nose and mustache hair. Yeah.
That brings up another issue. How old do they live? I don't know.
Yeah,
I've heard people say they live hundreds of years old. I've heard someone who says they could, mind speak, say they live around 130, 150, at the most.
Yeah, I can see that.
I wonder about that.
Well, yeah, that's the key thing is that I want to know that too. I've seen the creature within 10 feet, and it has scared the what out of me. The yellow waters, but I hate to say this, but I have said it on almost every Bigfoot show, is that the only way we're going to find out is to either find a dead one, which is going to be next to impossible, or find a living one and shoot it and then bring it back to science. I don't really want that to happen. I hate for that to happen, but that seems like that's the only way it's really, really going to happen. Because I don't know if you're aware of their behavioral patterns, but they absolutely, on purpose, evade humans. They do not try to actually see us.
They do. They avoided me for 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went everywhere. I mean, I couldn't find them. I still can't find them.
Yeah.
I only have interaction when they choose. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always orchestrated under their,
Yeah, it's under their choice, not yours. They decide when you see him, not when, the other way around. So
that's right. Well, it's not always their choice, though, because I did ask for that favor. I wanted to see one.
And they do, like you said,
me that favor.
Yeah.
And by the way, I did the same thing with UFOs here recently. I got some really good, decent. I think you've seen that, haven't you, Jeffrey? The recording that I made of the two UFOs that flew near my house here not too long ago. Maybe not. Well, anyway, I requested that. About 4 days before, I asked if they would do a flyby for me. That was long enough so I could videotape, because usually I see them and they're here and then they're gone. It's very fleeting.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like 4 days later, there they are, and I got about over 2 minutes of recording, which I edited down to just a little over a minute, and it's really good. I mean, it's pretty decent, except I had my infrared setting on the camera on. It would have been much better if it had been in color, because they were flashing red and turn their lights off and on and just basically saying hello, I think.
Yeah, but
it went over.
On the same token, it's in infrared mode. It's harder to fake that than it is with the color image. So it's you can actually see the heat in infrared mode. Whereas if you were to fake it with the model and put the model in later, the heat signature is not going to be there. So the infrared actually works out a little bit better.
Oh, well, okay. That's good to know.
I've interviewed Stacy Brown, and him and his father, God rest his soul, his father passed away not too long ago, but they got some really good thermal video of a Bigfoot down here in the Florida Panhandle, and they were on that Spike TV $1 Million Bigfoot and got like 30 grand for scientific or something. I don't know what happened with the rest of it. I don't think they won the big thing, but anyway, it was really good. If you haven't seen it, you look up Stacy Brown.
That was infrared?
Yeah, that I believe it was or night vision or something. The same
it's
thing,
probably
right?
night
Or
vision.
difference? There's difference.
But
I don't know.
it works at a similar scale. It works.
Yeah,
It reads
but
light,
it
and if
was
it's not in the light,
good.
you can't see
You
it.
could
Yeah.
see it. I mean, it was blurry, but it looked like to me it looked like some kind of Neanderthal from what Iceman, that weird movie or something. That from a long
Absolutely.
time
100%
ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a trip.
And that was probably a gift. I mean, they're just so much aware of when people come into their territory, they know why they're there, they know what they're up to.
Yes.
They know this stuff.
I would really like to see one. I had an incident that's kind of questionable when I was a kid that I still not sure that I wrote about in my book at the beginning, but I wouldn't consider that 110%. It was kind of like just a confusion kind of thing, really. But I wrote about it in the intro. But I would like to have an experience, and I'm going to try to ask. I don't know what kind are around me in Florida, but I hear if Stacey Brown can see them, then I'm sure I can on some level. But
you're seeing those beings in light.
Yes.
I think that's your prime candidate. I would think.
Definitely.
Yeah, just go out there and keep an open, light heart. Take your lady with you, and hang out and enjoy yourselves, and invite them in, and see what happens.
Definitely, I will definitely think about it more because I love the subject. I would love to see one because I get upset sometimes. It seems like they appear to people who are like would shoot them, like on all these TV shows. Like, dude, you don't need to be appearing to those dudes. Probably they're probably not a good idea. Why are you doing that? Come on. I'm not gonna shoot. I don't carry a gun out there or whatever. But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes the ones that I see that appear to certain individuals in the Bigfoot field, I'm like, why are you doing that? Don't.
Right.
Won't name any names.
Most of the time, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They make mistakes once in a while, but most of the time, they know what they're doing, and they look at a person's intent. They don't look at anything else,
Yes.
And we're all the human race, and what is your intent? What's in your heart? And that's all that matters to them.
Have you come across Kawani? I've interviewed him a few times. Kawani Leporitis. He wrote Sasquatch People.
I'm reading his book right now.
Awesome. I've interviewed him a few times. I need to talk to him some more. He hasn't put anything out in a while, but I've done him quite a few times. He's been around a long time.
Yeah, I'm amazed that he wrote this book, which is just so up to date in so many ways, way back.
Is that Sasquatch People or Psychic Sasquatch?
Yeah, the one I got is the Psychic Sasquatch.
Okay.
I'm about halfway through it now.
I got that one, but yeah, there's also a Sasquatch People. Get that one when you can. That one's really good. He's a trip for sure. But that's my question. I guess, what do we know about them spiritually? Do they ever bring up, like, let's say, Christ consciousness or things like that, or throw that in there for Easter a little bit? Or are they like native?
Yeah, this is the thing, and this is part of the reason why I've transformed myself from an atheist to highly spiritual.
Okay.
Years ago, before this all started, I found what I call a shaman stone, and it has on it a glowing figure, right? And I've gotten about 3 gifts now that if I hold it just right, it looks like the glowing figure. That crystal, that white crystal I just told you about, if I hold that next to the shaman stone, it's in the same. The outline is in the same as that glowing figure on the shaman stone, the crystal that he gave me. So just that, that kind of indicates that they're spiritual in their core. But it's also, they helped me journey that time. I guess I could tell that story, huh?
Yes.
That'll help illuminate this. I wanted to journey, and I was looking for LSD or DMT or something. Psilocybin. I was looking for, and I started asking around, friends.
I've been there, brother.
Can you find me some, man? Because I want to journey.
I wish.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I was unsuccessful in my search, so I gave up, and then I just took a bunch of pot and backpacked out in the middle of nowhere, and my friends Peter, Jacques, and Cece, forest people, were there. And I smoked a bunch and crawled into my tent, laid down, and for some reason I knew they were going to help me. And they did. And I journeyed. I went out 3 times. And I can't remember the first 2, but the last one I remember just a little bit of it. I didn't go out for very long, just a few, moments really. But I landed in this tropical setting, real green and colorful, waxy-looking flora, and then there was this big, round, yellow face that was smiling and very happy. Just like they portray the sun in some of these cartoons. You know what I mean? And it was laughing, kind of, and we were talking, and I don't even remember what we conversed about, but that was the last one, and I remember that. And I came out, and I thought, wow. I really, truly believe that was not hallucination. I believe that was journeyed, and I was in some other realm, wherever they go.
You're reminding me of an experience I had in Georgia. I woke up in the morning and I had a bunch of strange experience from seeing strange lights in trees that were not bugs, that were, I don't know what they were. But one morning I woke up pretty early and I saw like what you said, but it was gray. It was like a smiling face. It was real quick, and it kind of reminded me of like one of those Buddha statues you see at a Chinese restaurant, but it was just this big head like smiling. Maybe I have seen a Sasquatch situation, just didn't know it. But that was a weird one that I'm not sure, but it's kind of like gray. My dad was a big guy, and I have a Buddha statue of him, and he's dead now, but he was very overweight, big, so I thought maybe it was him. I wasn't sure, but when you said that, I was like, that sounds similar to kind of what, but I was awake, which you were too in your own way with journey and everything, but this is like when I woke up in the morning, but it made me remember that for some reason. But
some people might tell you that those lights were fairies.
I've thought that too. It was like there was Christmas lights in these trees in the yard, but there were no Christmas lights in the trees in the yard.
Yeah.
it was really, and I'd also had these blinking weird white lights come up to the windows, and for some reason in my head I knew it wasn't a person, it was something weird. I thought maybe it was some type of alien with visors blinking, but it was very strange. I had a lot of weird experience. But what about weirdest being sightings? And I was we talked about this next show with Pat Horn, is I saw these 3 little cloak beings in the woods that were very small, and they had a black box in front of them, and my friend Brian saw them as well. A cat jumped at them and they vanished, but they were small beings, and they had a little weird black box in front of them. I don't know if they were aliens. Someone told me gnomes. I think Pat said that, but it was weird. I'll never forget it. And then of course, being from Georgia and all that, the Bible Belt, I'm like, there were little Satan agents from Phantasm watching me, little dwarfs. Who knows? But they were weird. But later, my cat, I found it dead. I'm not going to say they did it, but I'm not going to say they did it, but maybe they were like those little dwarfs from Phantasm. So Jay's cat just fell on his head.
There's a window up there. They like to climb up into it.
From the ceiling. Okay, well, what about you get into portals and stuff in your book? So I mean, portals is something. What's going on with portals?
I want to discuss because this is where they started guiding me, and the way they started is they gave me a number 327. I kept seeing it everywhere, and the last time I really got it, where I knew there was something highly strange going on, is I went to the first Sasquatch summit I ever attended in Ocean Shores, Washington. And I decided, well, I'll see if there might be a reservation that was canceled or something. Maybe I can get a room, And so I walked up to the desk, and the desk clerk was on the phone at the time. And so I waited for her to get off the phone. And then I asked her if there was a room available, and she says, yes, that was a cancellation. We have one room. And the room was 327. And I got the biggest rush. I probably just stood there and looked at that number when she handed me that key, you know.
Oh.
I just probably stood there and looked at it for 10 seconds. I probably wondered, is he frozen or what? Because it was so shocking. You know, I just knew that this was important. You know, that 327 was really important. They've been hammering it, you know, for quite a while, for years. So anyway, what happened next was a summit or two afterwards, I meet Joe Hauser, who owns the Montana Vortex and House of Mystery in Columbia Falls, Montana.
Saw that in your book, yeah.
Yeah, and I just felt compelled to go to the Montana Vortex as soon as possible. And so I did. And up until this time, nothing had really, you know, I didn't know I was on this journey, you know, I didn't know I was a student at that time. And so I drove out there, and we had a great time, by the way. We went out at night and saw unattached shadows, you know, kind of shadowing us, and saw orbs up in the mountain across the Columbia Mountain, across the highway, and heard a Sasquatch scream from over there. And then what else happened? Well, then he said they want me to go to the labyrinth. So this place they call the labyrinth, which is just the center of another vortex. And I stood there, and he took some pictures, and there were some orbs and kind of a, you know, ectoplasm above my head, and I knew they were there. You know, I could feel them. I couldn't see them. So I was just thanking him for you know, being there for me. I just felt this deep feeling of love when I was standing there. I didn't really want to move. But Joe, you know, then took me into the House of Mystery. And while we're standing in there, just talking nice and quiet, we heard a cloaked Sasquatch right behind us exhale. So that was kind of cool. And so that was my night there. Oh, and the doors opening and closing. The doors were opening and closing by themselves. So that was quite a night. Anyway, when I left, he handed me a pamphlet that was written by this, what I consider a genius, Nick Nelson. He works there. He's a guide, and he's also worked at the Oregon Vortex. And he's been studying vortexes and magnetism since the 60s. Cool. So he had learned quite a bit. And he had written a pamphlet called 216. So when I was leaving, Joe handed me that pamphlet. And I realized immediately, if you add one digit to each one of those numbers, you come up with 327. So it struck me that this was what it's about. Something about vortex fields, magnetism, something like that, you know. He also gave me Nick Nelson's book, The Golden Vortex. So I read the book, and his insights are, you know, a lot of them are pretty technical, so you might have to read the book twice to understand it. But it had a lot of interesting anecdotes in it and stuff, you know, where he'd seen, for instance, the guy who he believes started the Oregon Vortex, for instance, and you know, and they both saw each other, you know, and kind of shocked look on the other guy, and the other guy was probably standing in, you know, the 1930s, while Nick was standing in the 1990s, you know. So there was a time difference between where he was standing and where that other guy was standing. And so anyway, from reading Nick's book and doing my own explorations, they guided me to Tesla. And that's very important too, because Tesla believed in field theory, which is, a magnet has a field, right? It's got a magnetic field. And it turns out that I believe now that pretty much everything is magnetic. And I just read today that they were talking about dark matter and dark energy, and they started applying magnetism to that, and it seems to correlate with their predictions. So that's interesting as well. So the ether out there might be just a magnetic field, really. So anyway, from that, I determined that the Montana vortex is probably a magnet on end with the negative north side above ground. Because right there, it's got a counterclockwise circulation to the field. I almost said electrons, but and it is electrons, but electrons are basically little tiny magnets. And so from that, I learned about the 90-degree rule in physics, and I thought to myself, what if a portal was actually just a magnet? Because in the center you have what they call counter space, or the inertial plane, which counter space means no space, and that is the point by which all things are connected. So, in other words, you've heard of entanglement, where you can take one electron two electrons, and get them entangled with each other, and then you can take one of those electrons all the way across the universe, and they can communicate with each other. Well, it's through that counter space, that inertial plane, that they communicate. And I thought, well, what if a portal was just the middle of a magnet? So you got one end, which would be the Montana vortex, negative end of the magnet, and then you've got the portal, which is the counter space, and then on the other side, on some other planet, anywhere else in the universe, you've got the positive end of the magnet. And in between, of course, the portal itself, there is no space. So you could just step right through from Earth to some other planet. What do you think about that?
Definitely interesting, for sure. I mean, there's so much about quantum physics and parallel realities, and then some of my light being experiences, I've seen them like in the heavens around the earth, and it's like they're in another realm that's kind of up there. It may be where we go when we pass over, like kind of like a staging area or something like that. But one thing, Jay loves this topic for sure. Extraterrestrials. How did that get introduced to all this? And I'm someone who's saw UFOs over my house, all my different places that I've lived, and it seemed like they were there maybe because of me on some level. And I don't remember ever being taken or anything. If I was, they are mind wiping the crap out of me. But I've definitely had some weird aerial vehicles over houses that I've lived at, and plus coupled with the hooded beings. I'm just kind of curious, how did it get introduced into everything, extraterrestrials, with this?
It happened pretty quick. After we did a couple yells and stuff, I mean, it was just like a few weeks after we found our first family of Sasquatch, we put a wildlife camera up in a tree, and we put a bucket of KFC across from it, and figured, they're going to come up here to get that. We're going to get a picture. That at that time, our mindset was rather elementary. But instead what we got was about 2:30 in the morning, there was a light shining down, like it was trying to shine onto the wildlife camera itself. And of course the wildlife camera, it exudes ultraviolet, or what is it? Infrared. That's what triggers it, I think, is it has this infrared thing. And maybe that's what they detected, I don't know, but they were over there and they lingered for 22 minutes with this light shining down from different angles, like they're trying to figure out what is that down there. And I'm thinking, that can't be a helicopter. first of all, I'm not seeing any downwash. You know, if it was that close, because it looked really close, there would be downwash. What was triggering the camera was a south wind that was moving a limb where the KFC was sitting. And so it just kept triggering the camera, and it kept taking pictures. And no helicopter, you know, I don't know if you know this, but flying a helicopter is extremely expensive. And to linger for 22 minutes like that out in the middle of nowhere, it just didn't make sense. So we joked about that, and we said, you know, wow, we tried to get a picture of a Sasquatch, and instead we got UFOs. It's all I could figure, you know. But then it wasn't that long afterwards, and we were coming back from a band practice, and one flew over, almost right over the car. We were exiting a hailstorm, and here comes this really super bright light. I could hardly, you know, make out any superstructure at all, or structure, I mean, at all. And it made a maneuver. It made a right-hand turn about 15 degrees and lifted up, you know, about 1,000 feet, and then slowed down and crossed the highway. And we actually had it in view for, I don't know, 8 or 9 minutes. And the other thing was, it was so close when it came by. There was not a sound. So it wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't an airplane. It wasn't even a jet airplane for sure, you know. It was something that doesn't make a lot of noise. And it was about the size of a single-engine aircraft. So that happened, and then not that long after that, like about 6 months later, I was backpacking with a couple of cousins, and we came out, and here comes a triangular-shaped one in broad daylight, silver, no noise again, cruising into a stiff wind, and just cruised right over us, and we were just so shocked, you know, that there was even a camera right there, and nobody even thought about picking the camera up and taking a picture. We're just like looking at it and just going, wow, you know. So that was the first three, and that was like in the first year and a half, I would say, of Sasquatch. And then since then, of course, I see them quite frequently if I go out on my deck and hang out for a while. A lot of times I'll see them.
And you've seen the extraterrestrials, or did you mean Sasquatch?
Oh,
you talking about? Oh, you meant the aerial vehicles. I haven't seen the beings, but I've seen the aircraft for sure. Well, how do they tie in the Sasquatch? Do you think they're kind of like the natives who have contact with the star people? Is it kind of like that kind of level?
Yeah, I think they're working in cahoots. Sasquatch and these ETs are connected, and I'm connected. I'm part of whatever this mission is, and I think they're doing some of the guidance. You know, some of these anomalous events that have occurred. For instance, electronic manipulation. When I was checking out a CD that I'd written, and I got one song out of place, and when I was checking the master on it, that one song, the volume went way up. Well, they wanted to bring my attention to it, that I'd, you know, stuck it out of place. And I ignored that because I was so shocked, you know, that volume went up. I thought they were just making a joke. But I'm pretty sure those were ETs. I've had them in my house running around. I got one print on a bath mat that I took a picture of. And it's kind of a weird print. It's like a little child's print, except the big toe is in the middle. And they taper off to both sides. So they've been in my house. So there's a definite connection. At least I think that's what those beings that were in my house. It looked like it was wearing a sock or a boot, a very light boot maybe, to me. But I've also had other things in my house. So it's really hard to sort some of this out sometimes, you know. I was meditating in my bed one time, and I felt what felt like a little tiny sharp elbow hit the bottom of the heel of my foot when my cat jumped up on my bed. And then it exited out the bottom of my bed. I've been meditating for 10 minutes with this thing in my bed, didn't have any clue it was there. And when I had my sliding glass door open, cracked about 6 inches, and it went out the sliding glass door. My cat kind of acted like it wanted to chase it, but not. And I sat up. I didn't have my glasses on, but what I saw kind of looked like a transparent brownish thing, about a foot or foot and a half tall. I just got a real quick glance at it. That's all I saw. But yeah, that was weird. And that might have been one of them little people you were talking about.
Yeah, those are strange. Those things haunt me for sure. Like, it's strangeness for sure, no doubt about it. Well, what about, like, I know there's these things have different personalities. Does it seem like there's a majority that you've come across, or all of them have been good, but do you think there's jerk ones? I mean, I've heard stories like, there's all kinds of stories out there. Who knows what's
Sure.
true or not? But even in like native folklore, I don't know if those are Bigfoots or giants, but I know there's some that throw you in a basket and they'll eat you. Do you think there's good and bad, and maybe they were bad at some point, and maybe variety?
Yeah, I think there might be more than one species, for one thing. But also, they're very closely related to us. And we're not perfect as humans, as you know. And they're a little bit more perfect, but still not perfect. So I think, there's rogue ones out there, but I think they pretty much take care of their own. If there's a rogue one out there and he causes enough trouble, well, they're going to take care of him.
I heard some story from Kewanee about giving them. There was a rogue one, and they gave it antifreeze or something and got rid of it. Some weird story like that.
Wow.
Like the other ones got rid of him and sealed him in a cave or something. There's crazy stories out there, so it's hard to know what's what.
It is.
So
That's the thing about this. We're just all trying to figure it out.
I've had people threaten to beat me up online because I think Bigfoot's paranormal. So, I mean, it's like they want to come find me. What? Yeah. Bigfoot's paranormal? We're going to get you, boy.
Yeah, I know. They get very violent.
That's weird.
That's fear. That's what that is.
It's so weird.
That's an expression of fear. They're afraid that their world isn't what they think it is. They don't want anything messing with it.
Why is it so hard to think that they might not? I mean, to be that, I'd be open to it, because we die. And obviously, if you believe, you carry on at some level. Even if you're Christian, you think that. So, I mean, why is it so difficult? I don't get it. With a lot of a lot of them, Bigfoot, certain groups and stuff, you can't even say anything paranormal. You'll be thrown out. I've been thrown at them just for saying something paranormal, anything. I don't remember what, but just could be a sentence. Yeah. And next thing you know, you're gone. It's weird. It's bizarre.
It's changing, though. There's a slow transformation going on.
That's good.
I mean, you mentioned Moorhead. He didn't believe they were metaphysical for a while.
Yes.
He slowly came to the realization, if you spend enough time with them and you're interacting in very intimate ways, eventually you're going to believe in the woo, because they're going to show you, that it's real.
Another example, David Paulides. I don't know if you're familiar with him and Missing 411 and all those people. Yes. Well, I've seen both his documentaries, and his last documentary, The Hunted, he has Bruce Maccabee on there and talks about a weird UFO case, and he starts going full woo on there, which surprised me, because I've interviewed him a bunch in the past, and one time I did these written interview questions, and I had a Bigfoot question in it, and he made me take it out. He's like, I can't tell families that. They'll think I'm crazy. And he was concerned.
You're talking about David?
Yeah, David. I've interviewed him a bunch, but it's been a while. But he, in his last documentary, they went full paranormal. They started getting really paranormal in The Hunted, the last one. That you saw that one with Bruce Maccabee and all that. And
actually, no, but
that's
we have a good
just check
mutual friend. But I haven't talked to Dave much. I remember having a conversation with his wife once, at a summit, but he was busy elsewhere. But I look forward to talking to that guy.
Yeah, he's is interesting to talk to. I haven't talked to him in a while. I know recently, God rest his son's soul, his son had took his life, and I know he's dealing with that right now, and there was like a video about it and stuff. I know he did just put up an interview with that guy from Finding Bigfoot, that Bobo dude or whatever. I haven't watched it. I saved it. That dude's skinny now. Like, I'm a bigger guy,
I
but
saw
Bobo
that.
used to be. Now he's like, dude, I hope you're doing that the healthy way.
Yeah, I watched almost all of that interview. Nice
I need
laid
to
back
watch it.
interview. By the way, you can see in the background where Joe allowed me to pitch my tent. I'm the only one that's been allowed to pitch my tent in the Vortex.
Cool.
But I was so tired, I fell right asleep. So I did put out a Sony overnight recorder though, and got doors opening and closing and shuffling around and stuff like that. But the highway, if you noticed in that video in the interview with Bobo, how noisy that highway is.
Yes.
It doesn't let up, even at night. It's horrible. So that's why I just, I just dumped that recording because of that. Yeah.
And what are your plans for the future? I mean, what do you plan to do next? Are you going to visit some more places or some more books?
Yeah, I'm going to write another book. I got another book in me. I've decided, things keep happening. And I'm going to give this portal idea a little more thought and exploration. But the other thing is, in my next book, there might be a little section on baseball, because baseball has that 3-6-9 thing going for it. And I'm curious, who thought of that? Because it's such a perfect game. I mean, well, it's my favorite game. But, just the way it works out, just the way baseball is configured, something about it is mysterious to me, and I want to find out about it.
I don't. Have you heard of Tom Powell? Thom Powell? I always have trouble with his first name, but he's a big.
Yeah, Tom. Tom's a friend of mine.
Cool. I've interviewed him. He's got a fiction book that ties in baseball somehow. I forget the name of it, but I know I have the locals and it. There's a strange little fiction book. I don't think I read that one.
I haven't read that yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure the connection, but I remembered it when you said that. For some reason, it popped into my head.
He read the locals. Very good book.
Definitely, really, really good.
And so is yours, by the way.
Thank you.
Praise for the Hairy Man. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And it was that's why I like this interview so much, because I love the subject, and then it reminds me. I remember my first Bigfoot book. You get a little buzz going, and I did some radio shows, and for sure, it's nice. It's nice. And that book I did that with Andrew Colvin, and the weirdest thing about that book is the art on the front. I don't know if you saw who that was by, but it gives me the creeps. It's one of the Manson family did it, Bobby Beausoleil, which I don't know how Andy knows that guy. I don't know him, but yeah, that art is from Bobby Beausoleil, and he was like, I'm not into the Manson family or anything weird, but I know he was one of them. He's still in prison, but he did the Bigfoot book.
Well, artists. I mean, I knew an artist once. He was brilliant, but he was like psycho. I didn't want to talk to the guy, hardly.
Yeah, for sssure. There's some weird HBO show with an artist. I can't remember his name, but it's kind of dark. It's like a dark Bob Ross, the Happy Tree guy. But there's I've been watching it on there, but it's I forget the name of it, but I've seen a few episodes of it. For some reason, we lost Jay. He vanished into the nether.
Yeah,
so
I was going to ask about him. I think he left.
Yeah, he had some tech issues, but so I mean, we got about 35 minutes or so. Are you okay for that? Is everything all right on your end? I don't know if we.
Yeah.
Okay, good, because there's.
I'll hang in there.
I don't want to just talk here by myself for that. That's when That's when I really start freaking out, and I got to do this by myself. But yeah, tell us some stories. I want to hear them. Whichever one you want to tell. Tell them. I love it.
This is the one I want to tell you. It's like one of my favorite nights out there. And this, by the way, which is kind of weird, but it was like right when I started realizing, that they might have some sort of telepathic abilities, right? Anyway, this happened up in Wainuchi area. You probably heard of that. Bobo's favorite area, I've heard. Anyway, it was early April, and it was a very warm, like a summer day. I mean, it was just spooky how warm it was in early April for around here, you know.
Yes.
Especially up in the Olympics. And so I went up to Wainuchi, and the place I wanted to stay at, camp at, which was closer to Jacques and Peter and Alice's family, was blocked off for some reason. So I was forced to go elsewhere, and I thought, I think I'll just, be a tourist and go and stay at this campsite that overlooks the lake. And I'd always wanted to stay there because it's just so picturesque, and it really turned out to be an excellent place to camp. So anyway, I set up camp, and much to my surprise, because it was a weekday, but it was a hot day. So 3 girls show up, and they camp about 100 yards away, right next to the lake. And I could actually see their campsite, from certain angles from my camp. So I thought, well, okay. And then another guy showed up, and he camped about 50 yards beyond them. And so I'm thinking, well, there's nothing going to happen tonight, so just might as well just relax and have a good time, And I wasn't even thinking about breaking out my electronics or anything. I was just going to play the guitar and hit the hay sometime.
Yes.
Later, And I started a nice small fire. I don't usually start fires. I have a beeswax candle. That's usually what I use, or I use a lantern and I cover it with a towel, so it's not so I can just barely see the guitar. That's the idea, But this time I started a nice little fire, and I really enjoyed it, and I was playing my music, and just before I went to bed, I got up to take a piss, and I heard something move on the other side of the brush, and I'm just thinking, I think someone might be here, because most animals don't approach a campsite to listen to music, That's a Sasquatch thing. So anyway, I crawled into my tent, and I'm relaxing there, and I hear the girls, they're laughing and kind of having a good time, and finally they turn in, and I started hearing this juvenile Sasquatch up on a ridge line chanting, and it was like it was in 4/4 time, so it was boom, 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 like that, and he switched he switched like he was using 4 different animals in his chant and changing it. And I was listening to that, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I know already what it is, and I'm thinking, I wonder if those other campers can hear that, and what they're wondering what that could be, And next thing I know, I realize that he's making a beeline for my campsite, and he's coming quick, and I mean like hauling down that mountain, and I'm trying to find my recorder. I had my Olympus LS20 somewhere, and I couldn't find it. I had so much junk in my tent. That was ridiculous. I couldn't find it, and he was almost on top of me, so I stopped looking for it. So I couldn't record this, and I wish so much I got this recorded, because this was awesome. And he came into my camp, and the first thing he did was he was still chanting all the way down, by the way. He's chanting in this 4/4 time. And he gets down there, and the first thing he did was check to see if the girls were still in their tents. And then he came back around my car, and I could hear him. I could hear where his movements were. And he came around my car, and I know he was checking to see if my tent flap was open, which it was. I was looking at it was a full moon, and a calm, warm night, and the trees were blue. It was just it was an amazing night. Then he went back around my car again and made a beeline right straight at my tent. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to come in front of my tent. So my whole attention was out the window as he went behind my tent. And my tent was sucked up pretty close to 2 trees, so I just thought, I thought he was going to go in front of my tent, but he didn't. And so I didn't get to see him. If I had sat up and looked out when he looked around the car, I would have gotten to see him from about 20 feet away. But I don't do that. I give them all the power. I don't push myself on them. I just go out there and have a good time. And if they want to interact, they interact. That's the way it is. So anyway, then he maintained that chant all the way back up to that ridgeline. And just before he got to the top, I could hear him just kind of falter a little bit. He had run out of gas. But wow, I mean that just showed to me their amazing physical abilities. No human could have done that. Well, at least that quickly.
Do you think
the whole time?
Sorry, do you think they die? Do they die like we do, or is it something else?
No, I think they die just like we do. But I've come to the conclusion that death is an illusion. And I'm not so sure about when they chose me, but I might have even volunteered for this before I was even born. Through all this and all these people I've met and all these strange events and synchronistic anomalous connections that I've discovered,
Yes.
I've come to believe that reincarnation is a thing, and that I've been here before.
I absolutely agree.
Jay's back. Well, let's let Jay, if he wants to ask a question. Russell's also tell his story, so if Jay wants to work a couple in and then see what time permits and everything.
Well, I gotta agree with everything that you were just talking about, whether they die or not, Jeff. And I absolutely think they do too. And I was thinking about this the other day, how it's just that biological life is just it's a receptacle for souls, and how many millions and billions of trillions of souls must there be to occupy different beings within this universe, which is huge, by the way. But the reason why I think that they die and maybe reincarnate like we do, it's absolutely, I've seen it. It's a biological creature. I'm absolutely convinced of that. I'm not convinced that they can travel through dimensions or time or have cloaking devices or whatnot. That we can agree on and disagree on that point. But they are absolutely real. And I have this cat. You can probably see it behind me. This one right here has actually been reincarnated. And I fully believe in the reincarnation because of the cat. The cat story is that I had this cat for 20 years and she got sick, and I had to decide whether or not when to put her down and whatnot because she wasn't going to make it. So I was at this restaurant having Chilean dinner after work, contemplating how and when to kill my cat, and one of my favorite cat that I've had for 20 years. And one of the waiters asked me if I'm all right. I'm like, no, I'm thinking about, my cat's sick. I got to figure out what to do. And they're like, oh, well, by the way, we have this cat that no one wants. If we had this litter, all these people got all these kittens, but there's one kitten nobody wants. Would you like it? And I'm like, well, you have to let me think about that, and I'll let you know. So before I left that night, I said, I think I made my decision. I think, yeah, if you don't mind, if you have that cat for a week, I'll come back and get it, a week from you. And then they described the cat to me, and it was really weird because it sounded like, a black Maine Coon, like what I have behind me. So that next afternoon, I took my cat to the vet to have her put down because she wasn't going to make it. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. A week later, I go and get the cat from these guys at this restaurant, and I pick the cat up at the restaurant like I'm picking up a dinner, oddly enough. So when they bring the cat to me at the back of the restaurant, the husband of the mother and son that worked at this restaurant, he drives up, and this little kitten, this exact animal right here, sees me through the window and recognizes me and tries to jump out of this guy's lap as the car is like coming to a stop. So it smashes its face in the window, trying to get out to get to me. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. Then I pick it up, and it was like almost exactly like the cat that I had just had put down. Long hair, black fur, Maine Coon, female. And they open the window, and she jumps into my arms. And they didn't hand her off to me. This cat jumped out of this guy's car into my arms. I took it home, and usually when you take any new animal home, it has a while till it gets used to this place. Where this new housing is, where it can go, where it can't go, and what have you. This little kitten knew exactly where the cat food was, knew exactly the other cat. He walked, it looked right at the other cat, said hi, ran past it, and ran directly to the food bowl. It didn't have to be shown anything. And I'm like, that's even weirder. And as I came to know this animal, it has the exact same habits and personality as the one I had put down, which I'm convinced is the same creature as you see slinking around right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that because you know I'm a cat person. You know, I've only had 3 cats in my life. The first one 14 and a half, second 15 and a half, and now I got this third one. But they all have wildly different personalities, and of course I grew up with cats too, so I know how different their personalities are. And you get 2 cats that are alike. Well, that seems rather implausible, actually, unless.
Yeah, I mean, it's like fingerprints. I think it's nearly impossible. I mean, they all have, you know, different quirks and habits that they all do that's, you know, unique to that animal. And I don't know if it's genetically based or just what they've observed as they're growing up. But yeah, I'm absolutely 100% convinced reincarnation is a thing, and I'm convinced this cat is the same soul that I've had that she was given to me as a kitten 30 some years ago now in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
Bro, you believe that, but you don't think Bigfoot time jumps. Come on, man.
Think about this,
There's no proof that we can time jump, but you know, I'm not open to the idea.
I love messing with Jay so much.
I haven't seen the episode, Jeff.
Think about this, Jay. If you hadn't seen a Sasquatch staring through that window that night, would you believe in Sasquatch?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah. I had already believed in him at that point. Prior, you know, maybe the year before, and it might have been the year after. I don't know. You know, I have memories from back there. I mean, that's over 50 years ago. We're getting close to over 50 years ago now. It can't be. But the movie Man, Myth, and Monsters had come out, and I think it was Peter Graves, the guy who was on Mission Impossible, who was the host of the movie. And it's a great show, and it doesn't really delve too much into aliens as much, but Bigfoot and ghosts and goblins and what have you is what the main core of the movie is. And it's a documentary. You know, I had seen that, and I was already convinced at that point that having seen that movie and the Gimlin Peterson film, which was about 1966, the creature's for real. I mean, even back then, with all that evidence before I even saw it dead in my eyes, I was convinced of it being real.
Well, okay. Well, all right. That doesn't work then.
If they're physical, though, and let's say we're hypothetically say they're all physical, they still die and become an energy being. Who's to say some aren't alive and some of the energy beings that are not physical? So, I mean, that they may just be stronger beings than like we are and can show themselves more and have more gifts or whatever. I don't know. I'm just working on a theory, but they may be ghosts. Bigfoot is my thing, or something like that. Multidimensional.
I have another working theory that I've been kicking around about Sasquatch, and I think they might be soldiers. I think these ET that they're hooked up with, you know, they're doing battle with somebody. I don't know who they are, you know, but there's a struggle over this Earth between at least 2 entities and maybe 3. I mean, groups.
It makes sense. I had a spiritual warfare minister, Bill Bean, on, and he's been on Coast to Coast, and he said those like chimera type beings. He didn't really say Bigfoot, but he said like, I don't know if he said Mothman, but some of the weird ones, you know, that are like chimera kind of things, like Mothman and stuff. He said that they were like experiments from an alien. Of course, he said the alien was Satan, which I don't know if that's true, but that was creepy to think that these things may be coming down here and just making crazy stuff. I mean, that's happened in like Greek mythology and stuff, right? So I mean anything's possible, but there may be some truth to that.
Chameleons mention that stuff.
Yeah, I think there's some warfare.
It goes way back.
Yes, that fish man that came out of the water for one tribe and taught them stuff, and
the Dogon.
Dogon
tribe in Africa.
They may be like. I think there's beings that our next guest, you should listen to him, Russell and Jay. You're going to like this one, Pat Horn. This dude will trip you out. Basically, the whole show revolves around him and technology he's made because he thinks we're at spiritual warfare. And he says some things about tall whites that kind of control the show here. And basically, he's messing around with technology. And I want to be careful because I want him to say this stuff so I don't mess it up. That's hunting them down to find out where they are. And I was on the phone with him for hours, and it was like an X-Files episode. This is pretty good as well. But he was having me looking around after that one. I was like, this is going to be weird, man.
Well, I'm looking forward to listening to that.
Next week.
Yeah, I don't put it in terms of the devil. I mean, angel, the devil, that's just labels,
Aliens.
I think, exactly, yeah. I really truly believe that. Now I actually think Daniken was probably correct in a lot of his assessment of the Bible. As far as chariots of fire and so on.
Well, one thing I want to make sure that we got plenty of, and I know we've touched on this before, I love the subject of shamanism. I've had people on, Don Ruiz Jr. and Serge Kahali King, Huna Hawaiian, Shaman, and I love that subject. So the fact that you're mixing it up, I love it. It's like two of my favorite things. You got those UFOs in there. We're gonna party all night for sure. That's my favorites. But what? Tell us a little bit more about the shaman aspect of your book and these Sasquatches. That they have that shaman spirituality, like native spirituality.
Yeah. Shaman is a word from South Siberia that basically means someone that has interaction and knowledge of metaphysics, and of course that can include spirits and the whole realm of that stuff. And several times here a while back, I was hearing people would tell me, you're pretty shamanistic, and I go, what? or someone would say, you're a shaman, just directly say that, and it's like, no, I'm not a shaman, and then I actually went and bought a couple books on shamanism, and found out that most shaman don't choose to be shaman; they're chosen. And then most shaman resist at first, this idea that they're shaman. And I'm not saying I'm shaman, so I don't feel like I am. But I don't resist the thought so much anymore, because I do have some knowledge of metaphysics now and interaction with spirits and so on. So I guess, one definition I kind of fit. As a shaman, but I don't consider myself a shaman. Like, that's just another label,
Yes, you got it. I think I do too. But yeah, I don't go around. I'm not sure I'm like a hippie in a van or anything. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had enough of it in my life and interviewed enough. I know I have the traits of it, but yeah, I don't go to my head or anything. But I've had some weird stuff too, and you definitely have for sure. We got the medicine. We got some of that Doors mojo going for sure. We all do. We've all seen some weird stuff, but yeah, that's great that you've immersed it in this, because that definitely, it's just cool, and that's what I kind of see them as too. They seem like shamans on a lot of levels.
That's it. That's why my teacher is a shaman, no doubt about it. That's the way I look at him. That's the way I look at all of them, really. They're shamanistic, highly shamanistic. It's so much fun. I want to tell you one more story. Do we have time?
Yes, we got about 15 minutes. Yep, we got
plenty of time. Well, now I just changed my story in my. Okay, I'm going to tell you about this, and this is one thing that really made this whole thing easier for me. I started taking out friends and family, right? And friends are one thing, but family's another, because most of my family, I'm pretty sure, thought I was nuts when I tell them about Sasquatch. They'd roll their eyes and wink, and sometimes have some biting comments, and so on and so forth. But I started taking people out, cousins and my great nephews. I took them on a road trip, and everywhere we went, by the way, Sasquatch came and vocalized for us, and we even saw one on that trip. So that was a trip from Southern California. I picked up my my great nephew Xander and his brother Mason, and we camped out at our first night of camping was at Bluff Creek, and they came and vocalized. It was still daylight when they did that, and then the next day is when we saw a Sasquatch. We were driving to a place called O'Neill, Oregon, in this lost highway that cuts from near Happy Camp over to the southwest corner of Oregon. And as we crossed a bridge, there was a 10-foot Sasquatch walking towards the bridge, cinnamon-colored, lean. He was much leaner than I expected, but they all have those shoulders. I mean, big, huge shoulders, and even though he was lean, 10 foot. I mean, they're just magnificently proportioned. Let's just put it that way. The ones that I've seen, anyway. And I didn't say anything about it because I didn't want to, I guess I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. I just kept driving. They hadn't seen it. I kept my mouth shut, and then 2 days later, my great nephew Xander speaks up and says, "I think I saw a Sasquatch when we were down there in California." And I said, "Oh my gosh, you saw it too." And so then we compared notes, and he thought it was 9 foot, but I think it's 10 foot. And I think a lot of people, when they look at them, they underestimate their size and their height, their height and their weight. And I think it's like forced perspective. I mean, they're just so stocky, generally. You just have a tendency to look at a stocky 10-foot Sasquatch and think that it's 8 foot instead of 10 foot. That's my thought on that. But anyway, so yeah, they vocalized this all the way up, and my nephew's got a really good experience with that. So a couple of years ago, I took Mason out, just he and I, and we camped out near where I live, not like a 15-minute drive from my house. And they came, and it was afternoon. It was still light out, and we could hear some talking out in the woods. My nephew jumped up and he says, "I hear talking in the woods." And I said, "Yeah, they're here." And then it was 2 juveniles and an adult. And the 2 juveniles went out beyond where we could see them and ran around and played, and we could hear them, calling back and forth to each other in different animal calls and stuff. Oh, God, it was a lot of fun. But there was the adult stayed behind and was fairly close to the camp, and just like every 5 minutes or so would tap on something metallic, sort of a knock. And then before it got dark, they took off. And just after they got about a mile away, I would say, the adult called back to us. It was just an amazing call. Even though I know them fairly well, once in a while, those calls will put a chill in me because they're just so wild.
Heard some of Ron's for sure. It was trippy weird for sure.
Yeah, but I kind of like those chills. They're fun. Which reminds me of another story, if we got time.
Yeah, just one little one-liner here. What if this war and everything, what if these beings are like from Norse mythology? Like if you look at Native and Norse and the little people, dwarfs, and like there's parallels. I know you've seen it before, but what if this war that's coming is Ragnarok, brother? It's coming.
Okay. I don't know about that one. I'm not familiar with that word. But
Norse. It's Norse like apocalypse. Viking apocalypse. Yeah. Just a joke, but nonetheless, go ahead.
There's something I think about once in a while. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yes.
I got a feeling, though, that the ET that I'm involved with and the Sasquatch, I got a feeling they got things under control right now, pretty much. And that's why the reveal is coming forward. That's my thought.
What's the reveal? What do you mean, disclosure? Or?
Yeah, I think that's why they chose me. I'm here to help slowly familiarize humans with the idea that there are Sasquatch out there, that there are ETs, and that you can interact with them. They're open to that, as long as your intent is correct.
Yeah, it's about raising consciousness, and that's one reason we do the show. A long time ago, just a real quick little story. It's not that long. I was having trouble getting interviews when I first started. I said a prayer, and then I had a weird UFO sighting of these like red fiery ships in the sky. My brother and nephew saw it. Next thing you know, I'm on the phone with Stanton Friedman, Lloyd Pye. Everyone's talking to me. It was like it was connected. This is about raising consciousness, and that was weird because there was an interview I did, and I had to stay on the phone with Stanton Friedman for like 2 hours because it was a typing interview, like an old school one where there's no audio and just typing. So it was like something like just help me, and it was really weird. It's definitely raising consciousness is definitely service to humanity. Yeah,
I would say, I don't know what odds I would give it, but I would say for sure that this kind of synchronicity I've experienced too. So there are some strings being pulled, no doubt about it.
Yes.
They guided me to my house, over 35 years ago, without me knowing it. I only had the opportunity to buy one house, and this is it. And I got 2 opportunities to buy this house. Cool. So that's just crazy. The second time I jumped on it, and bought it, and been very happy. But there's a reason why they picked this location, because it fits mathematically and within everything else they've shown me. They actually found a way through math to show me that. Oh man, I don't know if we got enough time for this. But anyway.
Yeah, we got like 7 minutes. We got like 7 minutes. I don't know if you could do it.
Okay. Well, after I came back from the Montana vortex, for some reason I had this compulsion to measure the distances from the Montana vortex to the regional vortex that they had led me to up in the Olympics, and that was 441 miles, and then I measured the distance to my house from that vortex up in the Olympics, and it measured 57 miles, and the long short, to make a long story shorter, all these measurements, one configuration, if I drew lines between these areas and connected them, it was the Pythagorean triangle, his secret Pythagorean triangle, which has the dimensions or the angles of 36, 36, and 108. And I just thought, wow, that's crazy. that all fits together like that. And yeah, and then there was other things too in that showed me that they had guided me to my house. And the other crazy thing is my friend Jill bought her campsite, which by the crow is 36 miles from my house. 36 plus 36, you get 72 again. Okay, we didn't talk about 72, but anyway, all these synchronicities were just too wild to be coincidental. And so when I saw that, I realized, oh boy, they guided me to this house, because I pieced everything together, when I found the Shaman stone, when I had my first possible encounter with I'm pretty sure it was a Sasquatch, way back in 1982, and so on and so forth. And I realized, wow, when did they choose me? When did this happen? And that's why I say it might have even happened before I was born, because of other things that I've discovered. And that will be in my next book.
Definitely keep us in the loop. Was this your first interview on radio?
It was my first interview.
Congratulations. You did a really great job. Your voice is really good. You're raising consciousness. You're doing it. You're doing it, brother trucker. You're doing
All
it.
right. Well,
It's
hey, I enjoyed
great.
this, Jeffrey, so much. I really
Me
did.
too. It's a
If I had
pleasure,
to go
man.
another half hour, I do. I do it.
We're gonna definitely get you out again sometime. You could be our medicine Sasquatch dude for sure. We
Well,
we
all
need
right.
more Sasquatch. We
There
haven't
you
had
go.
as much as I usually do lately. It's not as easy to get. I mean, I could probably. It's been a while, so yeah, I'm glad. I used to do a lot more of them, but it's just been a little
Mhm.
while. There's someone else coming on, a lady that I met that later in a few months or something, but it's been rare to find them or whatever. But it's been really good, and we appreciate it so much. And tell everyone your name, your book, and where can they get it? Where's the best place?
Oh, yeah. So my name is Russell Wiitala, and the name of my book is Sasquatch, Shaman of the Woods. And you can order it now, I guess, maybe, from Dorrance Publishing Company, which is out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they have a bookstore, but of course, in about a month, it'll be coming out, as electronic or whatever they call it,
Amazon.
electronic book, and in Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and the usual suspects.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, and we definitely friend of the show, and Sasquatch is a friend of the show, and we'll definitely get you back on, and we look forward to it. Keep us in the loop on anything new and any new books or whatever, man. We'll definitely hook you up.
Thank you. Sasquatch is like cowbell. You can't have enough of it.
Exactly. I love it. And who's to say there's not some big, giant, crazy war coming? This planet's weird. I think there is some kind of
I
beings
think we're
here that
already
mess
at
with
war,
us.
Jeff.
I've seen weird spiritual warfare. Christina, I know, has. There's been weird stuff, and it seems like some don't like me sometimes. There's something going on.
Yeah,
That's
well,
rough.
you probably
That's
have
rough.
someone protecting you, dude. That's my thought.
Yeah, something you mean the negative ones, and I know I have the positive, but it seems like there's also some resistance sometimes lately. Like we had a glass blow up here and stuff that was weird. Been some strange things, but we appreciate it so much, and we'll definitely have you back on. Thanks so much, Russell.
Great talking to you. Great talking to all you people out there in Radio Land.
Great. Welcome,
right.
welcome, welcome. Take care. All right, have a good weekend.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. You're listening to United Public Radio. And next week, Pat Horn. That's going to be a good one. Definitely. I talked to him for a few hours on the phone. And dude, I was tripping out. Some X-Files. Definitely. You got to listen to that one. This is definitely unique. We've had some unique guests. Russell is very unique. I like the message. I love Sasquatch. I love shamanism.
Yeah,
Throw a little
Bigfoot
Throw a
story.
little bit of ET hot peppers in there. You got a pizza. I'm going to eat it. I like it. Happy Easter to everybody. Enjoy those Cadbury eggs. I've been watching Creep Show. They got a Necronomicon episode in season 2 with Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother. That was really good. New season started on Shudder. Little creepy. Little JoJo. Oh, it's funny because the little boy in season 2, it's just little stories. But there's an episode. There's a little boy, Joe, in second season, episode 1. His name's JoJo. And he collects monsters and models, and Matt Dillon's in it, and he's an asshole. I won't tell you the rest, but it's on Shudder Creep Show. It's good. There's a little JoJo in it. He's a cool kid, though, so I'm not giving JoJo slack. He collects models and stuff of aliens and Frankensteins. But what about that Jay, buddy? Narcolepsy Jay.
I've been up to 7 a.m. I've been out of the house since 9.
I couldn't come back to the house. Did he die? I was like, is Jay dead?
I almost just shut off because I don't know what the hell. I just opened up my eyes and it's like, you've been kicked out of the room. I'm like, where the hell am I?
That was funny. But anyway, that was Russell's first show. He did a good job. He's got a good voice. It was good. Yeah. I liked it. I got to actually buy that book. I got a PDF. I'll actually buy it just for the cover to add to my collection. For sure. All right, everybody. We'll have a good night. I don't even know if we've hung up yet, but good night, everybody. Watch Creep Show. Good night. I think that's the Creep.
There's the Creep, and we were the show.
What's good about Creep Show is there were old movies. Stephen King did these too. These episodes, and his son, all kinds of stuff. But they're good. There's an Evil Dead episode, with the Deadites and Necronomicon. I watched that last night. It was really good. Bob Ross, the guy plays Bob Ross, the painter, and then all of a sudden there's a zombie outbreak from the Necronomicon. That episode, it was good. But all right, everybody, have a good weekend, and see you next week for Pat Horn. We're going to hunt down some of those tall whites. Good night, everybody.
That should be a good show.
It's going to be good.